Welcome back to Yahoo Finance Live. I'm Senior Health Reporter Anjalee Khemlani. The FDA's Committee of Independent Vaccine Experts has voted almost unanimously to recommend authorizing Novavax's 2-dose COVID vaccine for use in the U.S. While Novavax still needs approval from the FDA and CDC before the shot can be administered to the public, this is a big step for the vaccine maker. Joining me now to discuss this is Novavax CEO Stanley Erck. Stan, welcome back. Thanks for joining me today, and congratulations. Step one complete. Want to talk a little bit about, it wasn't an entirely smooth discussion yesterday. There were obviously some concerns about where the market is for your doses, especially after that risk of myocarditis was identified. Let's talk about that. What do you anticipate?
Well, we think that there's a large market globally for our vaccine. There are a lot of people, there are tens of millions in the U.S. of people who have not received their first primary and second dose. So we think our vaccine can be used for that. We get a lot of inbound requests for that. But also there's adolescents and childhood vaccination that's got a long way to go. And then there's going to be booster. We don't quite know. Nobody quite knows how frequent boosting is going to be. But it's clear that boosting helps. And so we anticipate being able to ship a lot of product over the coming years.
I definitely want to touch on that global market in a second, but looking at your stock yesterday, of course, trading was halted all day while that meeting was going on, and you did recover a little bit this morning early in the trading session, but it seems like you haven't been able to fully recover from that hit from that FDA briefing. When it highlighted that myocarditis. What do you anticipate will be the results, or how do you recover from that?
Well, I think it's the myocarditis is a phenomenon that's seen when you look for it in all the vaccines. It was first identified with the mRNA vaccines, and we saw some cases in ours. Actually, what we saw was the same rate, basically the same rate in the vaccination group as we did in the placebo. So as the data gets understood and the FDA takes a close look at it, we'll be working with them to figure out exactly what goes on the label, and I think we're in good shape.
And one of the things we heard at the meeting yesterday was a lot of discussion about the manufacturing data. Of course, we know early on the company struggled with that, and then it finally had that relationship with the Serum Institute, and that's where the doses are coming from now. I want you to listen to what the FDA's Peter Marks had to say about that.
I fully respect the sovereignty of other countries to release vaccines based on what they see as their benefit risk, but we have certain standards in the United States that we hold to because that is the expectation of the American public.
So that's a combination of looking at the risk as well as the manufacturing data, which seems to be still a point of contention. Where are you with that right now? Because I know there was new information provided to the FDA as late as June 3rd.
Yeah, so we are responsive to all the FDA's requests for data. And so throughout the process, we've been supplying them any data that they want. The manufacturing issue is I think not an issue. The FDA came and inspected the plant it's in Pune, India, and they spent a lot of time there. They had 5 people inspecting the plant, and we came away with a big pass. So we got good results there. And I don't think there's a manufacturing issue. I don't disagree with Dr. Marks. It shouldn't be a lower standard in the United States, or the United States shouldn't lower their standards, but they don't need to. We have a great manufacturing process and a great relationship with all of our plants, not only in India, but also in the Czech Republic and in South Korea and in Japan. So I don't think that's a problem anymore.
Well, obviously looking forward, we're one step down, 3 more to go, waiting for the FDA's decision and the CDC as well. What do you anticipate as the timeline? When are you anticipating having doses on the ground and starting to be distributed?
Well, as you know, I can't predict how long it's going to take the FDA to review all the data that they have. We're hoping soon. As you saw, there was no ambiguity about the recommendation by the advisory committee. They voted all to approve or recommend to approve. We'll be bringing product. We're bringing product into the United States this month, and it'll go through the normal release process and the assays that you have to do. But we're going to be waiting on the emergency use authorization, and we'll have product available for shipment soon after that.
Do you know how that is being distributed? Are you still part of the government agreement to have them basically watch out for that distribution?
Yeah, for now, it's part of the government process of distributed through their distributors, and it'll be distributed the same way all the rest of the vaccines are distributed.
And when you talk about that market too as well, I know that we've talked about there are some people who have been waiting for the more traditional platform that you have. We also know that there are some who might be looking at it as a booster. Any timeline on the booster data and information and when you might be able to push that forward in front of the regulators?
Well, that's thank you for asking the question. We have booster data, and the FDA has seen some of those data, and they're going to take a look. They're going to review it, and we will formally apply once we get the EUA for booster label, and as well as for adolescents and ultimately young children.
We also know that other companies are right now today announcing different results from variant-specific and specifically Omicron-specific vaccines. What do you have in the pipeline for that, and what do you think the timeline is there?
Well, a couple things. Actually, yesterday we presented data that showed how well our vaccine works against Omicron. The original vaccine, the Wuhan strain, works really quite well when you boost. You get a very good response to Omicron. So that said, we announced a few weeks ago that we started a trial with Omicron, with a monovalent Omicron and with a bivalent. And when we get data, we'll get data from that. And we'll see whether we use a bivalent or whether we use Omicron alone or stick with the Wuhan strain. And all that will come out. The FDA has got another advisory committee meeting scheduled for June 28th, and we've been invited to present our data along with Moderna and Pfizer, and we'll all take a look at the data, and the FDA and WHO will make their decisions as to what they recommend. What they're worried about is a surge in the fall. And we'll be ready for that, whether it's Omicron or whether it's the Wuhan strain.
Yeah, speaking of that surge in the fall, I know generally speaking, there's an even longer term outlook for this virus being with us. How are you planning for that, especially to the point of global doses and global equity? Does this FDA step and just generally what the U.S. does when it comes to approving your vaccine, does that signal to the rest of the world? Does that really initiate more requests?
Yeah, so hopefully we'll have a unified vaccination program globally, and so our expectation is that the COVID is going to be around for some time, like flu, and I think you may recall that we have a bivalent combination flu. It's actually 5 strains. It's got 4 strains of flu and 1 strain of COVID in clinical trials right now. So we're prepared to have an annual vaccination, which would include both flu and COVID, perhaps just at the timing of the flu season, in the fall. And it could be that it becomes a seasonal vaccination.
We'll have to leave it there and have you back to discuss all of that later. Novavax CEO Stanley Erck, thanks so much for the time today.
Thank you.